Hey everyone. So, heading to the gym, trying to get it in early. And someone reached out to me and started talking to me about military traditions. So I got to thinking to myself, what's a few military traditions that maybe the civilian population doesn't know about? Okay. Now I'm not going to confirm or deny that any of these actually exist. I'm not going to say I've even actually seen them. Okay? So let's treat it like a rumor. Alright? Because these days, politically correct statements have to be taken or held with white gloves. So, I'm going to tell you about a few traditions in the infantry that may or may not exist. Not confirming that they exist, but if they did. The first one that some of you have probably heard about are called blood wings or promotion wings. Okay, blood wings, I believe, originated, if it actually is a real thing, down at airborne school. So what it is you get your original wings that are silver, and they have a backing on them that are like two spikes, and they have little dammits that go into them, and it holds your badge in place. Well, those are removed, and if it did happen, every paratrooper that has come before you that is in the area will come and smash those things in through your uniform, through your shirt, into your body. And then the next paratrooper, if it actually did happen, will come and remove those, like pull on your uniform, take the spikes out of your body, and then give you their own stamp, if that actually is true. And that continues for quite some time, leaving your shirt with a long line that would look like a wing. That goes the same for promotions. It's back in the day, we used to have our promotions up on our lapel. And that made it absolutely terrible. Not saying it ever happened to me, but specialist rank, I would assume, would be the worst because the prongs are so close to each other. I have heard times of the backings breaking off into flesh, and a Gerber is exposed by an infantryman being able to pull that backing out, and then you just get one-sided wings. No big deal. If it was a real deal. And that goes for every promotion that I'm aware of, if it was real. The promotion to first lieutenant in the infantry. How wonderful a time. So again, if the rumors are true, you get your second lieutenant when you're commissioned, you get your platoon, and then you go through that short time period. You earn your infantryman's trust, which, trust me, is not easy whatsoever. I mean, you're a child that comes in, and then you're in charge of men. So, although you have an education, you have absolutely zero experience whatsoever. So, the golden rule for you young officers or inspiring officers is there's a reason you are given an E7 as soon as you come into the military. So, utilize that E7. Utilize your NCOs. I will confirm that, because if you don't, life will be terrible. Right, General Norton? Okay, so when a first lieutenant is promoted, the colonel will come down and give his hoorah speech. Oh man, they've made it. This is a great day, blah, blah, blah. And then, if he's aware of the tradition that may or may not exist, he'll give a deeds not words about face and say they're all yours. At that time, the infantryman will attack their lieutenant, and that lieutenant can go ahead and fight back all he wants, but most likely he's going to end up on a shower bench in the shower, drug on a skidco, covered in dirt, sandbags, you name it, blacked out goggles, and really welcome to the crew. Again, can't confirm or deny, we'll just call it a rumor. Sasquatch is a rumor. The cherry jump. So, when you get your first official jump outside of jump school, there's many different ways it happens, but the old cherry pies, the little ones that you used to take to school when you were a kid, are put in your pockets. So when you do your PLF or your landing fall, if you will, and you're doing it correctly, feet and knees together, 5 points contact, it'll explode in your pocket and everybody knows it was your cherry jump. Now, I'm not going to confirm that's actually true either, because when you're GMPI'd, which means you're inspected, you're not supposed to have anything in your pockets. But if it does happen, it does happen. I'm not saying it does. The E4 mob. Now, I don't hear much about the E4 mob anymore. E4 would be Specialist Corporal. That's, right below the NCO level, and they are the meat and potatoes of meet and greet for the new boots, if you will, in the Marine Corps, or the new privates in the Army. And basically, they are what they sound like. Every direction you turn, they are the ones that are supposed to, before issues start being created, the NCOs have to get involved. The E4 mob is supposed to clean that up and fix it. But the E4 mob that I remember was everywhere. And they'd sit on the CQ desk and they would ask you random questions. What's the max effective range of a 203 grenade launcher? What's the point target of an M240 Bravo? Stuff like that. And if you didn't know the answer, you got corrective training, or you've got punitive actions, if you will. And it seemed like it was an everyday occurrence. Now, that used to be the real deal. I feared E4s more than anyone. The Mountain Tab. No, you guys aren't that lucky. We're not doing the Mountain Tab. Don't know anything about it. Hell Month. So in the infantry, there's something called Hell Month, if it does exist. And basically, that first month you're there, you are, I'm not going to call it hazing, because people would, but it's not hazing. But basically, that's when you get the find me a box of grid squares, find me a Pricky 7, find me Chemlite batteries, check the soft spots on a Humvee or a tank or whatever with a hammer. It's outstanding. That one, I can admit, actually happens. Zonk. So if you're ever in formation and you hear the colonel comes out there, or the company commander, whoever it is, that officer comes out there, and you hear a zonk, the first time, if you're not told about it, you're in trouble. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be a loud and thunderous zonk screamed out, and everybody's going to take off running. And I mean in every direction known to man. You would think that there is a mass shooter going on. And as a private, you have no idea what to do, except for some specialist says, run! You don't know where you're running, but you're just running. Now, if you get caught by certain NCOs, you have to work that day. Because a zonk, we won't call it a day off. We'll just say that you're on light duty, if you can escape. But if you get tackled, brought to the ground, you then belong to the first sergeant. It's not good. DUI consequences. The thing I loved about Fort Drum is if you got whacked with a DUI, you got to get in full dress uniform and you got to go to the PX and you got to stand there, and we know Drum is cold, and you got to hand out flyers and a little sign that said, ask me how I got my DUI and how I can prevent you from getting one. And you got to go out there and explain to everybody in the world why you got a DUI and why you're not going to do it again. And officers and especially NCOs would come by and made sure you could tell your story, because some of the times it was very, very hilarious. But it also kept you from wanting to get in trouble again, because I don't know if the rules are still the same, if it's true, but you had to stay out there until the next guy got a DUI. Woo! A lot of missing out on training. ID cards being lost. The normal Army, I've seen these big giant cards. Literally, they're like 3 feet tall, and they've got a cutout for your head. They're an ID card, and you just hold your head in it, and that's your ID card if you lose it. Plus, back in the day, you get in big, big trouble for that. If you lose your weapon, we used to have the wooden weapon, a gigantic wooden weapon. I've seen giant plastic weapons, and I've seen you have to carry, like if you left your M4 in your room, you had to carry the 240 Bravo everywhere you went. That'll change your life. Your helmet, we had the Darth helmet. It's a helmet like, you can't see it, like this big. And you had to wear that around. That was your new helmet. You definitely didn't want to lose your helmet. The Snow Mile. So at Fort Drum, a good little initiation was basically getting as long as you had your PT belt on, you got to run a mile in the snow with your snowshoes on, your PT belt, and I'm not going to say there's a whole lot else that you wore. The pit. Okay, this one's a little bit, if it's true. The pit was a one-time-a-month area where rank could be thrown out the door and problems could get resolved. Every infantry unit has a sand pit area where the rest of the Army uses it for volleyball and such. Not in the infantry. No, not at all. But if there was an issue and it couldn't be resolved and it seemed outside of the spectrum of NCO business, it could get resolved in the pit. If that happened, where both sides state their case, and if there was no resolution between the ranks of both sides, then you got to have a rock'em sock'em robot fight. And I promise you, after all that, if it did happen, there was a respect value, and whoever was right and wrong didn't matter anymore, and they swept it under the rug, and you were on to the next. Luck of the draw game. Luck of the draw game. You go to a professional establishment that has drinks. In fact, you're going to go to quite a few of them. And everybody, because you always roll deep with your infantry group, you never go out alone. It's a terrible idea, because there's a lot of cities like Fayetteville, like Watertown, like a few other towns that don't like soldiers very much, with good reason. And what you would do is everybody would write up a description of a human being, like a man. It had to be a man, because we were an all-infantry unit, or an all-male unit. And so, like, for instance, you'd say bald man, man with mustache, man with beard, man with red hair, whatever. And you'd put it in a hat, and you'd go get yourself a few drinks, and then, if this is true, and then everybody would pull out one of the descriptions, and then the next guy came through the door, you get fisticuff. I know that sounds like a terrible idea. Like I said, I don't know if it's true, but it might have rolled from one bar to the other, if it's a true story. I'm not sure. Nicknames. Everybody gets a nickname. Everybody gets a nickname. Okay? And the nickname is usually by the first thing your NCO sees. And that nickname is used, and you don't really have a choice in it. Okay? If you got big ears, you're going to get a Dumbo. If you're a tall, skinny dude, they're going to call you Bone Slivers. I don't know. Mine was Fat Nick. A good friend of mine, we called him Meat, because he looked and talked exactly like the guy from Porky's. Everybody gets a nickname. And then finally, one that I did like, and I will confirm this is true, the final march at Fort Drum when you were finishing up. It was an old school tradition where you took everything you owned and you marched it to the gate, which I thought was kind of funny. And I'm talking like rucked it. Everything that the military gave you get to ruck it to the front gate. I thought that was kind of funny because you had to turn it into CIF anyway. But long message, but at the same time, man, military tradition is awesome. I'm not going to say any of that stuff's true. It might be. But I know there's tons of them out there. The Navy has a lot of weird ones. I know the officer ranks have a lot of weird ones. You know, you hear about military balls with the grog bull and all that. That's weak stuff. But there's a lot of good traditions out there, and they're not all quote-unquote hazing or stuff like that. But the camaraderie that it brings, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, when you start taking away traditions that, yeah, they might be a little bit painful for a moment, really kind of bring you into the brotherhood of things. And I'm not saying go out and watch Jarhead and burn yourselves with irons, because that's just stupid. But there are some traditions out there that really are worth holding on to. But, you know, aside from our normal chats, I'm going to go in and hit the gym. I just thought I would give you a little bit of an insight. Hopefully a good giggle for you military folks in there that are like, oh, man, I've got another one. If you do post below this one with military traditions, make sure you just keep it PG and do not confirm that any of them actually happen, and especially don't show any pictures of some idiot doing it. I'll talk to you guys later. Deeds, not words.